Well, we've had our initial $50 million for rescue of wildlife and just making sure we keep the refuges in our burnt areas. Now we've got $150 million, $110 million will hit the ground with partnerships, particularly with community groups, with land care, with conservation volunteers. For the people who live in these areas, the environment is inextricably linked with the places they love, the visitors they get, and their sense of well-being, not to mention their regional economy.
How do you future-proof habitats, though? I mean, they were absolutely wiped out by bushfires. So how do you future-proof them against, let's say, the next bushfire season, which is only a few months away?
Well, that's what we do need to do, because as Andrew Colvin from the Bushfire Recovery Agency has said about everything we do, we need to build back better. So this is not just about putting back what was there before. And of course, it's not going to happen before the next bushfire season, but we are setting up the environment longer term for that restoration that will see it be more resilient in the face of bushfires that, of course, are going to be more frequent. And part of this money actually goes to Indigenous cultural burning and learning how we can better manage our southern eucalypt forests. We do well with savanna burning in the north, but I think there's a bit to learn in the south, and more information will come from the Bushfire Royal Commission. But importantly, feral animals, weeds and pests, science-led. This will be led by scientists, by an expert panel, and it will be monitored and measured. So it will give communities the reassurance they need that we are indeed building back better.
Well, how do you make habitats resilient?
You first proof them from weeds and pests, and you have an ideal opportunity, interestingly enough, if you've got a burnt fire scar. So, for example, in the escarpment behind the south coast, we've had rainforest burn that we would never have expected to. And we will see what comes up, what regenerates with the rain that we've recently had. A lot of that will be weeds. Great opportunity to get in there and remove those weeds and have the right species come back. That introduces the scientists so they know what those right species are. Our bush care, hands-on, seed bank volunteers, Greening Australia will do the hands-on work. And our zoos are partnering with us too, because we may need to do captive breeding with some of the species that are in such low numbers.
Well,
so
yeah,
we know what's affected, we know where it's affected, we know what to do.
Well, I was going to say koalas, the population was absolutely decimated during the last bushfire season. So what are you doing there?
We brought some money forward for koala hospitals, koala recovery, and I've asked our Threatened Species Commissioner to look at the level of endangerment, if I can put it that way, how vulnerable our koala populations are. They vary across the country, but certainly in northern New South Wales and southern Queensland, they were hit by the bushfires. They're okay, they'll be safe, but the work that so many people are doing will ensure that. And again, our scientists are looking at ways you can introduce koalas to places where they haven't previously lived. You do that carefully, you do that well, but we've got to remember a lot of their habitat has been burnt. But when you go back to those places in the northern New South Wales area where koalas were, you see some pretty amazing wildlife coming back. So, the bush is resilient and it will recover. And this $150 million will really make a difference.
Okay, and I was lucky enough to go and check out the Wollemi Pines a couple of years ago on a story that I was shooting. Not many people are able to see it because, they've been around since the days of the dinosaurs, but they were close. Weren't they, to being destroyed by the bushfires? So how do you expand those kinds of plantations?
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the Wollemi Pine either. Well, you have, Peter. I think that's actually a good example of our frontline firefighters working closely with those who understand the environment. So you sort of have everyone going in and understanding together and doing the work, so you know that there's a critical area that's going to be burnt and you have to act quickly, whether it be for a plant or animal species. But the Blue Mountains, 80% of our World Heritage Area has been burnt, including the temperate, the peat bogs up there, which are an amazing ecological community that helps secure the freshness of Sydney's water supply by filtering that water. Some of that has been burnt. So immediately, work will be done to fence off those areas, to keep them precious, and then to start reintroducing the wildlife. So knowing what's going on in every part of our natural environment, and people involved in that is critical to securing its future.